This is an adaptive reuse project. What that means is you're taking an existing building that had a certain purpose and converting it to a different purpose, in this case, multifamily apartment living. Our partners, Michael Weiss and Brian Giles, have done thousands of this type of adaptive reuse projects. We've also used Michael Poris Architecture out of Birmingham, Michigan. He's done tons of square footage and hotels and apartment buildings throughout the state of Michigan and also specifically in downtown Detroit. These best-in-class partners, along with GSH's expertise and knowledge in apartment management and asset management, is a great winning combination for the success of this project.
We're standing right now in the original schoolhouse for the city of Grosse Pointe. It's not just some random building that was built 100 years ago. This was the first schoolhouse in the city of Grosse Pointe. It was built in 1906. The other portion of the building was actually an addition in 1918. Back in 2019, the Grosse Pointe public school system was figuring out what to do with this property. And they issued an RFP, a request for proposal, to the general public to purchase the site. It's about 1.5 acres, and redevelop the existing structure here, as opposed to taking it down.
A lot of our projects involve historic renovation, so I think it's also exciting for the community to see that this building is being saved and put to good use with some beautiful residential units.
One of the things that really just got me excited today was to pull up to this beautiful property that used to be a school, and to think that they're going to take this beautiful property and restore it into gorgeous townhomes, gorgeous apartments.
It's a great project over here in Grosse Pointe. We're developing old 1906, 1918 buildings that were originally housing for school for Grosse Pointe, and we're turning them to 18 residential units.
We are investors in the St. Clair project in Grosse Pointe, and we are very excited to be a part of it for a bunch of reasons. And probably the primary reason is because of its adaptive reuse of a beautiful old school building right minutes away from the heart of Grosse Pointe, Kirchhoff.
So why is it important to try to preserve buildings and reuse buildings? There's a number of reasons. One, they're our history, they're, our memory, they represent our culture in every period, that we've been in. And so if you get rid of them, you're just erasing that history.
One of the things about adaptive reuse, when you travel the world, when you go to Europe, let's say, and you go to cities like Rome and Florence, they can't tear a building down. They have to save them. They have to use them. And everyone loves to go visit those places because that history is still there. And then people wonder, oh, why is that? And then we come here and, we should be doing the same thing because that history makes the city build on itself.
I love historic architecture. When I first started out my career, I planned on becoming an architect. That initially led to interior design, but we don't build buildings with the detail and thought put in as much as we used to. And it is so important to try to save our beautiful old buildings in Metro Detroit and try to find a way to reuse them with a new purpose while maintaining the historic architecture.
The carbon output is going to be much less from having bulldozed this building and then building new versus taking something already in existence and reusing it for greater use and good, not just for this developer and the tenants, but for the community overall too. A low carbon footprint is what it's all about.
You're not losing it, it's not getting demolished and going in a landfill. So all of the energy that went into this and the craft and the history is maintained.
Like this, that was built 100 years ago or more. There was a lot of labor back then, and it was much cheaper than now. So the quality of things that were built, it's hard to match now. Sustainability wise, it's the most sustainable thing you can do. So when people talk about saving energy and sustainability, well, the most sustainable thing you can do is to reuse something, because there was energy that went into producing all those materials. Figuring out how to reuse it, how to make it better, how to make it something of today that maintains that reference to 100 years ago. So that St. Clair, that's the first school in Grosse Pointe. So, all the ancestors of people that may live there still, or that, who went there. And, there's that history and that memory. And then, and just having that there and that quality and that character, it communicates that to new generation.
What really excited me about this project is just reusing existing spaces that have history to it.
This building specifically was used as an old schoolhouse, and then it was converted over to the City of Grosse Pointe's administration building, and they've been operating it as the administrative building up until 2022.
It was beautifully built, great, just really great brickwork and stonework and woodwork inside, and just really well.
We just can't replicate the stonework and the details that were constructed over 100 years ago.
As a historic building, trying to keep intact the hallways and the entrances, and as much as we could of the original building.
Something also about working within the City of Grosse Pointe is how welcoming and inviting they've been, easy to work with. They've welcomed, because of our experience, our partners and us in adaptive reuse and residential real estate investment.
Have little pockets of commercial stuff in residential neighborhoods that popped up in the 19-teens and the 1920s, and the 1930s for us is new. So, that history, that sense of history, and what you get when you keep that history with a modern twist to rework it, to make it work, is just huge for me.
We've been pretty lucky that way. Grosse Pointe's a great place to be. We definitely need the housing. We definitely want people to be here. You have, between markets, cafes, and smaller businesses, there's so much that you don't have to go anywhere else. So it's one thing. And of course, the neighborhood. You just got great neighbors.
Doing an adaptive reuse project is really special for us and special for me, because it allows us to create. A big part of our business is buying existing properties and elevating them, making them new, making them more interesting and inviting for people to live in.
Of course, you walk in, you're going to see like, hey, this is a high school or this is a middle school, and you can have old terrazzo flooring and all wood floors and all these great features that were here. But then you walk into your unit and suddenly you're in a modern unit. Of course, countertops, soft close cabinets, and then of course all your infrastructure is updated with the best technology of the modern century.
So the adaptive reuse is really, really important to me, just to retain the history. And there's so much rich history in this area architecturally, and to take a building down of this quality just is, I can't even imagine it.
I always like to keep a big part of the original in the new, but you create something new from it. So it's kind of like collage, where there's the sort of buried origin, but you've got your original thing and your new thing, and the original thing is sort of buried in it, but you still perceive it, but it's a new thing. You want to do something new that of its time that contrasts with or supports, but often contrasts with the original, to let the original stand on its own. You're really kind of taking advantage of the existing, and how do you highlight those elements so that you now notice them and experience it as something that you wouldn't have experienced before, just on its own, and now it's something new. And so we looked at it with the idea of turning it into housing, and basically taking the classrooms, deconstruction. We anything we weren't keeping in it, we pulled out and tried to salvage, and then we reused in places throughout the buildings. But we realized we could separate the two buildings and take some of the hallway that connected them and make those part of the units, and that actually helped us make better unit layouts.
We have a plethora of historic work and to maintain, not only in the hallways but also in each individual unit, right down to even the trim that was developed in 1906 and 1918 that we'll have to specifically mill to make sure that we create that historic aspect of the building.
We use the school as inspiration, for how we're finishing the inside, kind of making it kind of schoolhouse, when it comes to fixtures and cabinetry, and but not making it period like 100 years ago, making it contemporary. But there's this, everyone likes schoolhouse aesthetic because everyone went to school, and everyone went to old school. So not necessarily, but it's a great. I think it's one of those things that people relate to, whether you know it or not.
So what's amazing is I know that there is a lot of what you call legacy. There's family after family after family after family, generationally speaking. So I know for a fact, like when this was still just a colony, was the idea was to drive more people here to live here. This school was here. It had just been built. You can see it in the brochure. There's an old brochure, but it's really cool to see, like, oh my God, and that was literally right at that time at the beginning of Grosse Pointe. And the school system just kicks out, just incredible, between the athletes, the scholastic, where they all go between Ivy League or state schools or whatever. It's a great school system, and it's nice that we get to utilize it.
Generationally, that's a legacy. She's been here in the family forever. In fact, her children live on the same block, right across the street. She says, whatever I need. She's an absolutely amazing sweetheart.
We raised our 4 children over there, and they went to the school system all the way through. And it's Camelot. It really is a lovely place. At the age we are, we can see where older people want to get out of their big houses, and they would come to in the lovely apartments.
I think the location, Grosse Pointe is a historical community, an affluent community in southeastern Michigan, and there's a high barrier to entry for new apartment units, especially luxury apartment units like we're going to create here. So being able to pick up this piece of real estate was very meaningful and exciting for us. To be able to turn an historical building, get it historically designated as a process, which we did, and to be able to keep the historic facade and other historic components within, to stay true to the original nature of the building, but then also repurpose it into something that will be able to be meaningful and where people can live and enjoy and create homes in, is something that we feel very strongly about at the GSH Group.
I grew up in the Detroit area, and where a lot of other cities, Chicago in particular, would repurpose old buildings. The sensibility in Detroit always was tear them down, start from scratch. It's cheaper to do that. Always used to break my heart, and I never wanted to see that happen in a community where I have some responsibility for preserving that architecture.
It's really the minds and the visionaries that can say, this beautiful home that once was something could totally be transformed into properties. This is going to be another 200 years. When we're no longer here, this property will be here to serve the community and serve people that really appreciate, bringing history back to modern day.
What makes places unique is their history and their character, and maintaining that and seeing that grow over time, which is how cities grow.